Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's October the 7th, 2024. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day. Presented today by Caneswear, your ultimate authority for all your Miami Hurricanes merchandise needs. If you need it and you want to wear it or you want to use it, you go to Caneswear, which you can shop at 2655 South University Drive in Davie, or you can catch them anytime you want at Caneswear.com. We'll talk a little bit more about Caneswear later in the show. But, Matt, we must start out by talking about the 6-0 Miami Hurricanes. What a game. I was there at Cal. That was a unique experience, and I was doing a Q&A with the fans yesterday on the website like we always do every week. And somebody asked me the question about whether I'm concerned that we're still in coin flip games in the ACC. Virginia Tech, now Cal. Both games could have gone either way. Miami easily could have lost both. They won both by the hair, their chinny chin chin. What's different from the Manny Diaz era? And I think that is a very legitimate question from fans that are making that observation after two games in the ACC this year. And Miami's not playing Clemson. It's not the toughest ACC schedule in the world, but I would say Virginia Tech and Cal turned out to be stronger opponents than was anticipated. But it's still a very fair question, and I would answer it by saying that the difference is there's hope. Okay, you got a different level quarterback. Yes, he's got to rein a few things in. And we'll talk about that on the show today. I think he's improvising too much. Somebody asked me the question. There were some great questions, by the way. You guys that are listening that participated in the Q&A, I thought it was spectacular. Just some really good questions. And somebody said, what's the difference between Miami and a 7-on-7 team? Are they really running plays? Because it seems like half the time Cam Ward's improvising. You don't see offense run the way Miami's running offense this year, let's be honest. But when he's not throwing interceptions, it has been highly effective. So one of the things Mario Cristobal talked about after the game, and I know I'm kind of rambling here going on all different directions, and we'll cover all this on the show. But Mario made a great point also in that you don't want to overcoach Cam Ward. Okay. Like he makes that mistake in the Cal game early in the third quarter. He throws the interception. It ends up being a pick six. The instinct of a coach would be to pull him aside, get on him a little bit, whatever. You don't want to do that with Cam Ward because you don't want to take away what Cam Ward is. That is an improvisational quarterback. So a lot for us to unwrap here. We will discuss it all. But I want to throw it out to Matt so I don't get attacked in the YouTube comments for talking for too long at the start of the show. But Matt, a lot of really legit questions about this team and this program, but they're 6-0.
Yeah, you deserve to be attacked whenever you talk, no matter how long or how.
You better watch it. You better watch it.
So
I'll play your Cam Ward grab your balls video again.
Was I wrong? My son texted me. He says you were right. You warned Cam Ward. He didn't listen to you.
Yeah, well, you throw a ball like that up in the air like that in the middle of the field, and more times than not, somebody's going to grab the ball. There's no doubt about it.
It's disgusting. How dare you? So you were out there in California. I was crabbing on Biscayne Bay while dropping my crab traps, not crabbing yet. That starts the 15th. But so I was watching the game like everyone else, like a schmuck, and you were at the game. And I texted you midway through the third quarter. This is what I texted you, okay? If Cal makes the mistake of going conservative now, Miami might have a chance. Okay, there's still a lot of time left, right? And Cal, if you look
you really texted that to me?
Yeah, at 1:11 a.m.
I'm gonna double check that, but go ahead.
I'm reading it. Of course, I texted you.
I just don't know whether to believe you or
Why,
not. So.
why would I make that up?
I mean, I had a lot going on there. It was a very emotional.
All right,
night.
you can confirm it for everybody while I speak.
Yeah, it was a very
weird.
evening.
You think I'd make that up? It's literally. I mean, it doesn't have your phone number on it. It doesn't really show up here.
You did. You absolutely did text that.
Yeah, I could sort of see it.
You said a lot of time left. This is what you said. You said if Cal makes the mistake of going conservative now, Miami might have a chance. There's a lot of time left.
I literally just read that. Anyway,
you are God, man. They say Cam Ward is him. I say Matt Shodell is him.
That's not where I was going with this. Where I was going with this is Cal had 10 plays in the fourth quarter on offense before the final drive when they were losing. Of those 10 plays, 9 they ran it. Their biggest matchup, their biggest mismatch with Miami, and it was clear, and they were brilliant as coaches in exploiting it, was with the secondary. They were killing Miami's secondary until they decided we won the game. The minute Cal decided they won the game and could just run the clock out, they gifted Miami the game. And listen, Miami took the game. Don't get me wrong. I mean, without Cam Ward's heroics, Miami loses that game with any other quarterback in the last 20 years, period. They lose that not even close. But I knew they had Cam Ward, which is why I texted you that message at 1:11 a.m. Cal's coaches knew they had Cam Ward. Cal's coaches saw what happened in the Virginia Tech game, right? But Cal's coaches, and this happens to programs across the country, they were convinced that they had a great defense, right? Because Cal's defense, and I said this before the game, I said Cal's defense isn't as good as they think it is. You know, I said the only surprise to me, I said Miami was going to score 38 points or whatever. The only surprise to me was that Cal scored that many points against Miami. That was surprising because I think I overestimated Miami's secondary. I knew Miami's secondary wasn't real good. I've called it a weak spot. I didn't think it was this bad because Cal's offense is not good. Okay, we know that from their first 5 games. That is not a good offense. Miami's secondary made it look like Cam Ward was playing quarterback for Cal. It was ridiculous, okay? And then in the second half, a gift. You guys want to complain about Mario Cristobal? The Cal coaches said, let's just run the ball and stop doing what we've been doing to score so many points the entire game. So as much as Miami won the game, Cal lost the game. But listen, if you're a Miami fan, I mean, celebrate it, right? Because this is the best of all worlds in the sense that Miami knows it has problems that need to be fixed. And they still won the game, right? Usually when you have a massive problem that you don't realize you have, which was Lance Guidry leaving guys in mismatches that he had no business leaving them. If Mish Powell is left one-on-one with another slot receiver this year, I want Lance Guidry sent, to the Never Land, wherever that is, okay? I don't, Mish Powell looks slow in that game. How Lance Guidry thinks he can stick with a quick, speedy receiver multiple times is beyond me. And I understand Lance Guidry wants to drop Tyler Barron in coverage and do all this crazy stuff so that he can, sort of create confusion. But he always stresses to us that you've got to fix the problems by halftime or it's the end of the world, right? It didn't seem like he fixed anything. It seemed like Cal unfixed what they were doing right, which is fantastic. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, but the defense was much more effective in the second half than the first half.
I literally just said why. Because Cal stopped doing what they were doing in the first half.
Well, Miami also might have stopped doing what they were doing and might have started doing things a little differently. Like, there were halftime adjustments made. So you might have had a split dynamic going on there with both. You might be right, but you might have had both things going on simultaneously.
If you didn't see that Cal went from one-dimensional passing to one-dimensional rushing in the second half, like, that's what Cal did because they were trying to run clock and they thought the game was over. That's a fact. Like, we don't know what Miami did differently in the secondary because Cal never threw the ball. Like, on TV, what I can watch, I can't see the secondary when Miami's running the ball. I mean, when Cal's just running the ball every damn time, okay? I don't know that they did anything different in the secondary in the second half because I think Cal threw 4 passes or 5 passes the entire second half until the final drive.
Well, I think Miami started doing a better job getting after the quarterback. Okay, that was one thing that was clearly noticeable in the second half. I don't know that the secondary was radically different. I'd have to watch the tape, which I haven't had a chance to do. But they definitely were pressuring the quarterback much better, and they were getting off the field on third down much better. I don't have the stats in front of me right now, but I believe it was like 1 for 10 in the second half on third down for Cal.
Well, that's not my point. My point is the defense has a problem in the secondary that was not fixed off the Virginia Tech game. It's popped up 2 games in a row. It's not been fixed. That's my point. Whether you want to say they fixed it, I disagree respectfully.
Well, I know they
all I'm trying to say is, as much as Miami won this game on Cam Ward's back, which, by the way, Mario Cristobal wanted to run the ball the entire first half, Gary, which you loved, and they averaged 7 yards a carry, and at halftime they had 10 points, Ferman. You still want to go with the run constantly and take the ball out of Cam Ward's hands? Cam Ward looked disgusted with his body language. If you watch his body language on TV, handing the ball off time after time, he was not in the game mentally. And then in the second half, when it was like, hey, it's you. You got to do, you are the team. He responds to that. That's what Miami needs to do. Like, that's how this offense is at its best.
Mark Fletcher's the team. Damian Martinez is the team. There's a whole lot of guys on this team that are not getting to do a whole hell of a lot. You know, what did Chris Johnson have?
They ran for almost 100 yards in the first half and had 10 points.
I understand.
Oh, okay.
I get it. But Cal's defense is pretty good. Like, they may have had something to do with it. They wore down, though, as the game went on. And the Cal defense in the second half was in no way resembling the Cal defense in the first half. And I would argue, until you turn pink, purple, whatever color you want to pick, that Miami's constant pounding on them in the first half, the pounding, the refusal to abandon the running game as part of, which was the game plan from the beginning, had an impact on Cal physically.
What game are you watching?
That Cal defense was totally different in the second half. They shredded it in the second half. The difference to
me, with the passing game, not with the running game.
With the passing game, but they weren't putting the same pressure on Cam Ward in the second half that they were on the first half. I think Cal's defensive line got tired in the second half from the constant pounding of Miami's big offensive line. And I think that was an impact in the game that I don't know if everybody's really thinking about. And half the fan base, and I know this for a fact because I've done a poll in the last 24 hours, half the fan base was sleeping, okay, while all this was going on. Like, not too many people stayed up for the duration. They can't believe it. Like, they woke up on Sunday morning, they found out Miami won. They literally went to bed when Miami was down 25 in the third quarter. So, but I thought Cal's defense weakened as the game went on, and that allowed Cam Ward more time to throw and Miami's receivers more time to break free in the secondary and make big plays. And Restrepo had a career night, and Isaiah Horton made a bunch of big plays, made a stupid one too. I mean, what's wrong with these guys, Matt? Like, you're doing something good. You're catching a pass. You're getting down in the red zone, trying to score the winning touchdown. And the best that you can come up with is kicking an opposing player and getting a 15-yard penalty? I mean, what's wrong with these guys? Let me tell you something. They're lucky that Miami doesn't have depth at receiver because Jacoby George needs to be sat down. And if Isaiah Horton wants to go the Jacoby George route and get these stupid penalties, then he would have to be sat down too because it's unacceptable. They're going to lose a game they shouldn't lose because of all the stupidity that is going on extracurricularly that is affecting the bottom line product. And so they got to work on that a little bit as well. But I love the commitment to the running game. I thought that it did impact the game, even though they couldn't run a lot in the second half. You can't when you're down that much. But I thought it absolutely did impact the game in a positive way because Cal's defense wore down as the night went on. And that's what Miami is trained to be. Miami is trained to be a fourth quarter team that has conditioned itself for the duration of the game. And much more so than in the Virginia Tech game where they played in a sauna. I thought we saw that in Berkeley.
Well, listen, I don't necessarily disagree with you that maybe their defensive line got tired, but I mean, it was a long game. Miami ran 91, I think it was offensive plays. So yeah, of course their defensive line got worn down, but I don't think the run game wore them down. I think constantly having to play 91 plays wears you down in
86.
general. And also, you know,
why did they have to play so many plays?
And also what I think really affected them was the zone defense. Cam Ward picked apart the zone, and Cal, for whatever reason, didn't want to go man-to-man, even though they have really good cornerbacks. That was another big mistake in the second half. You know, they were playing the bend, don't break, too high safety look, almost like a prevent. Because, again, they made the mistake in the second half of just thinking the game's over, right? 35-10, 8 minutes left in the third quarter, the game's over. And, I don't blame them. It seemed like the game was over. Make them do long drives, but that was their mistake. You're making the mistake of trying to analyze what Miami did to Cal instead of looking at Cal sort of screwed up, which I think is fair to say. It's okay to say Miami didn't just win the game on its own. I think Cal also had a role to play with some serious mistakes by their coaching staff. That's all I was trying to say.
All right, but let's unwrap a few of these topics because, and again, congrats to the fans for having such good questions and things to bring up. But all right, so what's different, Matt? Like, you've got this Miami Hurricane team. They're 6-0, but they're life or death to win their ACC games like they've always been. So in that sense, nothing's changed. And they don't have to play Pitt this year, which has turned out to be pretty good. They don't have to play Clemson, which has turned out to be pretty good. But it's life or death to win these league games, just like it's been for years. What do you think? I say the difference is the hope. There's greater hope, even though these games haven't gone perfectly and the way they wanted them to. There is hope for the the second half of the season that it could possibly be different, and I think that's what the biggest difference is.
And no FSU either. I mean, no FSU. Yes, FSU. No.
Hey, FSU beat Cal.
No SMU. No SMU.
No SMU. Yeah, which has also turned out to be a good team.
Yeah, those three are top 25 teams right now. But no, the difference is just obvious. It's cardiac Cam. Like, that's the difference, right? That's why there's hope. We'd have 2 losses right now with any other. You name a quarterback from the last 22 years: Robert Marve, Tyler Van Dyke, Kyle Wright, Freeman, whoever. You name any of those quarterbacks. Miami right now is sitting at 3-2 or whatever, 4-2, whatever. We played 6 games, 4-2. Okay, that would be the record of this team, no doubt in my mind. And the only reason they're not 4-2 is a guy named Cardiac Cam. So, like, you can point to this and that and why there's hope. The only reason there's hope is the $1.5 million man, who just like makes things happen. Like I gave him the nickname yesterday, which I don't think it really is going to stick. What did I call him? I called him the human defibrillator, right? Because he seems like he's killing you, right? Virginia Tech giving up 14 points, the touchdown, the horrible interception for a touchdown. It seems like he's killing you, and then he revives you, and you win, and like you're back to life. So he's like a human. I call him the human defibrillator now because it's something we've never ever seen at Miami. You've covered the team since I think the 1908 season, right? Is that when they started? That's when you first covered the team.
Pretty close, yes.
And I don't think there's ever been a quarterback at Miami since Gary Ferman's been covering the team, since whenever it's been, that has been anything like this. I mean,
no, he's the most unique quarterback we've ever had. And another question I was asked is he the best quarterback that's ever played at Miami? And I'm like, are you out of your mind? Like, you had Jim Kelly here, who's in the Hall of Fame. You had Bernie Kosar and Vinny Testaverde, who won the Heisman. And
let me ask this line, Gary. If you put Cam Ward on those teams, does he win the Heisman? I'm not saying he's an NFL level quarterback like Jim Kelly, but in terms of being a college quarterback, I'm not sure he is any worse than any of those guys, other than the dumb mistakes he makes. Okay, he's got to try to eliminate some of the dumb mistakes.
He makes dumb mistakes, and he also, he's just got such an interesting way of playing. It's like you don't even know how to judge it. But so Mario says that. And we saw him talking to Cam Ward on the sideline after the interception. Probably was more like, hey, what were you thinking? Like, what, and Cam Ward said, listen, I've made that play. Like,
that's not that. I read Mario's lips. He said, I want my money back. That's what he said.
Like Cam Ward says, I've made that play before. It was the dumbest thing you've ever seen in your life, throwing a ball up for grabs in the middle of the field across his body. Like, there's no quarterback school that's teaching anybody to do that. But Cam Ward said, hey, I've made that play before, and I live by the sword. I die by the sword. This is what he said. And
he said that many times, by the way, and it's true.
He's not wrong, but it's not doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. But, Mario says, listen, like, we as coaches, and I'm paraphrasing, you can't micromanage Cam Ward. Okay, if you try to micromanage, if Shannon Dawson tries to micromanage Cam Ward, you're stripping Cam Ward of who's Cam Ward. Like, and man, that makes so much sense. It's so non-traditional and goes so against the grain of what we see everywhere in college football, pro football, where quarterbacks are almost robotic. But it's a legit point. Like, you have to allow Cam Ward to be Cam Ward, take the good and the bad, because the bad's going to kill you, but the good is going to overcome the bad. At least it has the last 2 weeks. I don't know if they could sustain this like this, quite frankly. You might want to, Cam, Miami offense, you might not want to go to the well, too many more times here this season. But he has been able to overcome his mistakes to this point. And I say it's because he has a better team around him. When he made these mistakes at Washington State, which he did, he was a turnover machine at Washington State. They were losing, okay? They were losing games. What was the record? 5-6 last year, I believe, right?
Yeah, they had a losing record for sure.
Yeah, they were losing. And, he was trying to play hero ball, whatever. He's got a better team around him now, okay? He's got Xavier Restrepo playing like Superman. I mean, oh, my God. What a season, X is having. Isaiah Horton blossoming like crazy. Isaiah Horton's going to play on Sundays the way he's developing.
How is he not starting? I don't understand.
Okay, now, all right, I'm glad you brought that up because I've had this battle every week.
I said this to you 2 weeks ago.
Let me ask you a question. They have 4 receivers. Does it really matter? If you look at the reps, Horton, I think, had 56. Sam Brown had 55. Why does it matter who starts?
Because I'm going to tell you why right now. And I said this to you 3 weeks ago. I said at some point during the season, Jacoby George is going to do something dumb that's going to cost them a game. And he tried to do it against Virginia Tech with personal foul, and he tried to do it again with another personal foul last week. And yeah, Horton did something stupid too. But like, Jacoby George has a history of suspensions. And, Miami fans wanted him kicked off the team after last year. Do you guys remember that? Okay. He had, I think it was 3 personal fouls in the last 4 games on just personal selfish stuff. And it hasn't gone away. Like, you can't have that and be a national championship level team. And like, I want this team to get there. The biggest issue for me right now, and I have a bunch, I wrote like 3 different stories for this morning. You guys can look on the site, but one of them is about who we're playing. There's not a single top 25 team on the schedule. So what does that mean, right? And by the way, we break down the remaining opponents. Like Louisville's now lost 2 in a row, right? That was supposed to be the big game. Now maybe Syracuse might be the best team we play, in terms of record when we play them. But really, the only teams that are any good that are left are Georgia Tech, Syracuse, and Louisville, and that's it, okay? So now the question becomes, does Miami get screwed if they go to the ACC title game and play maybe a Clemson and lose? Could a Miami with 1 loss be held out of the playoff picture of 12 teams because they played nobody all season, and that's the perception? That's my concern. And it's not Miami's fault. That's what's annoying.
The answer is they better not lose.
There are 4 teams that are either ranked in the top 25 or receiving votes that Miami just by some quirk of the schedule do not play, right? So Miami, you're right. Miami can't lose. Like if Miami loses a regular season game and makes the ACC title game and wins that, then they're in. But if Miami loses a regular season game and loses the ACC title game, they're definitely out. And if Miami goes undefeated in the regular season and loses the ACC title game, it might be 50-50 because they play nobody, and the perception out there is going to be, well, Miami's hasn't been tested and they should have lost 2 games, right? Because let's face it, some people think they did lose to Virginia Tech on the review. Some people think that. Conspiracy theorists. Some people think Wesley Bissainthe had a clear head-to-head contact where he lowered his head and hit the guy's head, and the game should have been over at that point. Some people think that too. So it's going to be really, really interesting if Miami's not undefeated heading into the playoffs. What happens? They better be undefeated because at this point, you can't leave this in the hands of people who can say they played nobody and they lost their last game to Clemson by whatever amount of points, and we're just not going to reward that and put 2 ACC teams in the playoffs when the ACC sucks this year, which is true. The ACC does suck this year. So that's my concern, big picture, right? But in terms of Miami fans, like just enjoy the season, man. Like when's the last time, well, I know the last time was 2017, but when's the last time you were undefeated at this point and actually felt like there's a chance you're going to finish undefeated, right? I mean, that you're going to.
That's exactly what I said. There's hope.
Yeah, because the ACC is not good. Clemson is not the same team it used to be. Georgia already showed us that, whether they can dominate average to good ACC teams or not. But we're going to learn a lot more about Miami because I think Miami really needs to win by a lot of points against Louisville, by a lot of points against Syracuse, by a lot of points against Georgia Tech, and everybody else. Because if it comes down to Miami having one loss and going to the playoffs, they need to be able to point to, we didn't beat everybody by 1 point on a last-second play after trailing by 25. We dominated our last 6 opponents. We are a real team. You can't have this sort of like thing out there where it's Cam Ward's good or bad and the rest of the team's like pretty average. Like, that's not going to make us go to the playoffs with one loss. Even though I'm sure a lot of fans think that will. You do not want to leave this in the hands of voters and people who hate Miami out there. Okay.
No, definitely not. Especially, yeah. So, all right. So this whole depth chart thing, who's starting, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to show you why it's all a bunch of nonsense. So nobody needs to worry about it. It doesn't matter who's out there for the first.
Before you get to this nonsense, I'm going to give you some more nonsense. You ready for that?
I'm going to give you facts to back it up. Don't give me more. Well, you can wait a minute to give me nonsense.
Yeah, sure.
Wait 1 second. Okay. Yeah. All right. Receivers. Okay. Sam Brown had 56 reps yesterday. Isaiah Horton had 55. Okay. Does it really matter who's out there for the first play? They are co-starters. They're both number 1 players. Okay. Restrepo, if you have to name a WR1, it's Restrepo. He's out there for 81 snaps. He didn't think, he barely took a play off. So Restrepo, got the most burn. Jacoby George, who deserves to be, spend some time on the pine, quite frankly, he got 48 reps. He got less than anybody. So where's the problem? Like there's no issues. Running backs, Damian Martinez had 42 reps. Mark Fletcher had 41. Where the hell is the problem? Like, does it really matter who's out there for the first play? I mean, I don't think so. I mean, if somebody has a beef, it's Chris Johnson, who had 4 reps yesterday, got in on 4 plays. Jordan Lyle got in on 3 plays. Like, you can't play everybody. And yesterday they were featuring the power run game with Fletcher and Martinez. They split it 50-50. Where's the problem? Why do we have to say one's first team, one's second team? They both are very good running backs. They're both proven. They're both playing great, especially Fletcher is really, really playing extra well. But Martinez is doing a lot more of the dirty work, so his stats aren't as shiny, quite honestly. But I don't see where that's a problem at all. So trying to think. I mean, I think we've pretty much unwrapped all of the issues, Matt. I mean, everybody by now has certainly seen the highlights. A lot of Shannon Dawson debate, but I give Shannon Dawson credit. Like, he had that play in his back pocket for the final drive. I mean, what a beautiful design play where they were able to come in right out of the gate to spring Restrepo for 77 yards and take it down into the red zone. Talk about a 2-minute drill. That's how you start a 2-minute drill. That was a well-designed, conceived play that was done during the week that Shannon Dawson had ready to go for that moment. And that's good offensive coordinating. And, everything's not going perfect. Sometimes Cam is doing different things. And, yes, when Cam improvises a lot, it does disrupt the flow of the offense. But he's successful a lot of the time. And they work on those scramble situations, and it's a lot more coordinated than everybody probably thinks it is. So I don't see that as a problem at all. So Matt, I mean, as Miami goes into the open week, to sum it all up, let's talk about how they can get better. I think the running backs are doing, great. I think the wide receivers can avoid the penalties. I think the offensive line is just scratching the surface. They got to get Jalen Rivers back, which they will. He should be back hopefully for the next game. And I think you're going to see this offensive line. I thought they took a step forward on Saturday and played maybe their best game of the year. You'd have to compare it to the Gator game, but I think they were much more physical and they sustained the run through the whole game. Defense, I think, could get a whole lot better. I'm seeing very uneven performances up front. Tyler Barron started out like gangbusters. been kind of flat the last 2 games. He didn't do much against Virginia Tech, and he didn't do much against Cal. That's a concern. We got to get Tyler Barron back engaged and going. Mesidor, as good of a player as he is, I'm not sure he's impacting things as much as he can because he's having to spend a lot of time at tackle. Will that change? I don't know. It's kind of hard to change it because now Ruben Bain is back, and you'll have other guys also will be coming back. But I just think the defensive line in general is just sort of okay. Like I think they can do a lot better. They have not been getting to the quarterback. They didn't get to the quarterback very well at Cal, I didn't think. The guy that really made an impact was Simeon Barrow, the defensive tackle transfer. I thought he had a phenomenal game against Cal. Wesley Bassane, Kiko Mano, other than one play against Virginia Tech, is having a great season, looks great. Wesley Bassane's playing the best football of his career. But he has so much more to give. Like, we looked at that play he made in the fourth quarter, and it was reviewed for targeting, whatever. Man, I've never seen Wesley Bassane make a play like that. I mean, that was a one-off. Okay, why is it a one-off? If he's capable of doing that in that situation, and it was a great play, and kudos to the ACC Replay Center for not overturning it because it was not targeting. He went with his shoulder and he flipped the guy with his arms. But I'd like to see a little more of that from Wesley Bassane. He's clearly capable of it. And the secondary, as we know, has miles to go. Matt called them slow. Maybe. I mean, they didn't look as slow in other games as they looked on a couple of those plays on Saturday night. So, I'm not really sure what the 40 times are. But the bottom line, Matt, is, I think there's still a lot of upside for this team as they go into the second half of the season.
I didn't say he was slow. I said he looked slow. But anyway,
you said he's slow.
So anyway, you mentioned, why shouldn't everybody just share reps equally? Generally some guys are better than others. If you think that, Horton, Sam Brown, and Jacoby George are all the same type player, then yeah, of course, just split their reps, keep them all fresh. If you think Mark Fletcher and Damian Martinez are the same back, absolutely split their reps, keep them fresh. I personally think that there's a difference. From what I've seen from Martinez, he doesn't look as good as Fletcher has. I would use Fletcher 80% and Martinez 20% in terms of their rep share. But again, if you think they're even, then that's fine. I reward players based on their performance. Right now, Fletcher has a better performance through half the season. That means something to me.
You're not taking one thing into consideration. When's the last football season Mark Fletcher has made it through healthy?
I don't not play players because I might get hurt. Then you never play guys. But anyway, you mentioned Restrepo, this fantastic play by Dawson to get him open on a 77-yard play against a prevent too high safety defense. That was not anything Shannon Dawson did. Watch the film, and you'll see that.
Get credit with you.
And you'll see the guy who was assigned to Restrepo went to double cover Sam Brown by accident, and the safety over the top went to cover Sam Brown also. They triple covered Sam Brown, and no one, it was a total bust by the defense. It was nothing that was this fantastic thing by Dawson. It was a simple slant that turned into a huge gain. Like, that was not something that Dawson schemed up to make them triple cover Sam Brown. Okay, it's actually the video, the film and the analysis of it is on the site this morning. You can look at that. So, and then how they get better in the bye, to me, it is not about personnel because there's only so much you can do. You're 6 weeks into the season. You're not going to miraculously get 3 new cornerbacks who are amazing on defense. You're not going to miraculously do anything. All you can do during a bye week, to me, to get better is to hone in on what you're doing well, maybe expand the playbook a little bit differently, take out some plays that haven't been doing well, self-analyze where you pretend you're the offensive coordinator. In other words, have Shannon Dawson look at Lance Guidry's defense, say, here's how I'm going to attack you based on these 6 games, what I see, and vice versa, and then find some ways maybe to get answers to those issues, because everyone knows now what they're going to do to Lance Guidry's secondary, okay? The last 2 teams have shown it, and everybody knows that Shannon Dawson's offense, if you let Cam Ward sit back and have a clean pocket, if you let Cam Ward go against his own defense, he is going to have success. So they may need to scheme up some things when teams try to make that not the case anymore. So to me, it's all on the coaches. And, I had a guy, a friend of a friend actually, who called me yesterday, just completely agitated. Okay, he's in Texas, and he's like, how come they still can't figure out how to use timeouts? I mean, screaming over the phone at me. I never even talked to the guy before. Well, a couple of times I've talked to him. Again, a friend of a friend. And I'm like, it's funny you say that, because they hired a time management coach. And I said, he wanted them to be calling timeouts when the other team had the ball with like 3 minutes left, because what's the point of saving the timeouts for when you have the ball? You can spike it, you can throw it away, you can, have a play that goes out of bounds, right? You can manage your own time. What you can't manage is the other team's time. You're down by 6 points, 3 minutes left, start using your timeouts. You have them anyway. You got to, you need the ball back, right? That was his point, which I understood. And certainly even the announcers, because I was stuck at home watching, right? 2 minutes and 33 seconds left. They're like, why would Miami not be calling their timeouts now? Because you're guaranteed on that 3rd and 7 with 2 minutes and maybe 24 seconds left, not 30. You're guaranteed to stop the clock there. If they don't get the 3rd and 7, you get the ball back before the 2 minute warning. And even if you don't, if they convert the 3rd and 7, right, and you've called the timeout, you still have 2 timeouts and the 2 minute warning to stop them. And then you get the ball back with a minute 57 left, minute 56 left, instead of letting it go down to 2 minutes. And now if they convert the first down, they're running 3 more plays. So you're talking about 4 plays times 5 seconds each. You just lost 20 seconds of play clock to try and score a touchdown that you need, right? So I get it. But what I said to him is, I agree with you. It wasn't sound time management. They should fire the time management coach so they won't tell us who it is, who apparently met with NFL teams all offseason to figure out how not to make these dumb mistakes. I said, but listen, as it turns out, if they had done it the way you wanted them to, Cal would have got the ball back, not with 24 seconds left or 26 seconds left or whatever it was, but with a minute and 5 seconds left. And maybe they're not desperation throwing down the field, and they're actually running real plays where they maybe are going to pick up some yards and get a field goal to win the game. I said, as it turned out, the total ineptitude, which it appeared to everyone to be at the time of Miami's play calling, right? Because if you don't get that 77-yard gain by Restrepo and you're just plodding down the field, right, and you have 2 timeouts that you have to use, and you probably are going to need 8 to 10 plays to go 92 yards, right? You probably need 8 to 10 plays against the prevent defense normally. It's going to be tight time-wise to not be running out of time by the time you score in that amount of plays, because the clock's running, right? Unless you're getting out of bounds. If you're catching the ball in bounds, the clock's going to run. If you get a first down, it stops momentarily, but that's just the way it is. That 77-yard play made the mistakes they made with time management actually work out fine, because as it turned out, Cal got the ball back with very little time left, and they would have had a lot more time left had Miami already spent their other 2 timeouts, or 3 timeouts, 2 timeouts that they would have had left. So it worked out. But yeah, I think the coaching is the biggest thing that you can do during the bye week. You're not going to change your personnel. You're not going to make your players better having an off week. You'll get healthier, which is fine. But to me, you can say all you want. Oh, they need to be better at this and better at that. A bye week's not doing that, man. And as a matter of fact, the bye weeks, this team's come out and looked worse after bye weeks. The vast majority of the last 20 years, that's what they have to really fight against, is somehow keep that edge, not feel good about themselves, not be like, no matter what deficit we're going to win, we can come out and look like crap for the first 3 quarters and still win. They need to come out and dominate from the first quarter and look like a real team from the first quarter, and not fall into this trap of playing down to their opponents, which they've done for so many years, and then just barely escape at the end. Because if it bites you once, it might end your season. Just the way their schedule works out. You can't have that. So there's very little room for error with this team. They got to be focused and be ready. Coaches have to be prepared better, in my opinion, in the last 2 games. I think there were some major coaching issues, quite honestly. I don't like calling out coaches, but it just seemed evident to me that there were some problems with the way those, especially on defense, things were schemed up the last 2 games, and some mistakes from the top down that just need to be cleaned up a little bit. That's all.
That's fair. Hey, let's be honest. This season could be over right now. I mean, we're sitting here 6-0, thrilled to death. Firmly in the top 10, et cetera. But the season could be over. Without a few, that game on Saturday night, there was a 1 play difference about a half a dozen times where one way or the other, it could have decided the game. And right now it's going Miami's way. Call the Canes a team of destiny if you want, but it's going their way. But usually these things even themselves out, and got an open week here. Great opportunity to get better, and hopefully they take it. All right, let's take a moment and hear from our friends at Caneswear.
Welcome to Caneswear. New store, new items, same great experience. Family owned and operated since 2010, Caneswear has the latest merchandise from the Miami Hurricanes, Miami Dolphins, Florida Panthers, Inter Miami CF, and more. Come visit us at our store in Davie on University Drive, just south of 595, or online at caneswear.com. Caneswear, the spot Miami fans shop.
Yeah, and guys, like I've said, I mean, men, women, kids, babies, pets, it doesn't matter who you're shopping for. It's a big season for the Hurricanes. You want them brandishing the U, go to Caneswear. They have something for everybody there, all sizes and as well. So get to their store, 2655 South University Drive in Davie, or shop them at caneswear.com, and you won't be sorry. I personally think it is the premier destination for the Canes fan to get all their gear now in today's world. All right, let's just recap a few of the other things that are on the website today, Matt. As we usually do, we sent Matt to the lab, and we're not going to rehash it. We've already talked a lot about Cam Ward, but Matt did what turned out to be a really interesting film study of Cam Ward and how he engineered the fourth quarter comeback on Saturday night. So make sure you take a look at that. Also take a look at the story on the remaining schedule that's left and how it's shaping up for the Canes. Instinct is to think it's going to be easy. It's not going to be, okay? There's going to be a couple moments in there where Miami is challenged. And look, Louisville's coming off a 2-game losing streak here. They're going to be plenty pissed off in the next game. Miami will have their hands full with the Cardinals. That one, I can promise you, Miami's going to have to play much better than they played against Cal and Virginia Tech if they're going to leave Louisville with a victory. Florida State beat Cal, so they're still capable of putting a game together, as horrible as they've looked at times this year, including against Clemson. So I don't think you just can pencil in a W. You're going to have to play against Florida State. Georgia Tech and Atlanta could put a game together. Syracuse could also be, a tough one. So there's going to be some moments there, I promise you, where the other team plays really, really well and challenges the Canes. But we do take a look at that remaining schedule. Also have a few recruiting things going on. We get a lot of reaction from recruits about the miracle Miami victory at Cal. So make sure you check that out. There's also an update with Leo, Indiana 4-star 2025 tight end Brock Schott. He's a Miami commit. He's still hearing from Ole Miss, Auburn, and Wisconsin. They're trying to flip him, find out his status and thoughts in that story. And Miami also is pushing for a 2026 cornerback out of Sarasota Booker by the name of Chauncey Kennan. We have an update on Chauncey as well. If you like this show, like this channel, hit your subscribe and like buttons. It helps us with the algorithms at YouTube in improving our audience. And more than anything, if you're not yet a subscriber to CaneSport.com, come on, man. Come join our community of fans. You won't be sorry. We got a great group of fans, and our CaneSport team does everything that we can do every single day to make your fan experience the greatest that it can possibly be. So for a very well-behaved Matt Shodell today, I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time, everybody.